born, children are born in a state of knowing nothing, right? It is how they get conditioned, that is how they are brought up, the things they experience, that they now develop their way of communication. So how you communicate is basically based on how you've been taught to communicate, right? So if a child is raised in an environment where there is little communication, you realize that the 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 child cannot express him or herself very well. Yeah, they cannot. They have limited vocabulary, be it in English or whatever dialect that they speak. They have very little vocabulary, and that's also something that you get when children are being brought up in an environment where they are speaking all different languages through, together. The child picks pieces here and there, and so misses a whole lot of vocabulary to be able to express him or herself very well. So language development is very, very important in how to express ourselves well. I say emotion is the way through which we communicate our feelings, because feelings you can't see, right? You can't. It's you can't see it, you can't touch it. It's how you express it through the emotions that you communicate how you feel. So for a child to develop very well the communication skills, what we call emotional intelligence, to be able to develop that very well, that child needs to be able, need to be taught in that manner. How do you effectively communicate emotionally? What is the right language to use in which circumstance, in which situation? Whenever a child is not taught that, there is always a problem. When that part is not well developed, you realize that there are a lot of things that you start struggling with. You grow up from childhood to adulthood. You might pick some things along the way based on the kind of friends you associate with. And that again has effect on how you now process things, how you're now going to develop your communication further, how you are now going to communicate. If you now have friends or associations that have this limited vocabulary like you, again, it becomes limited. And I have come to realize that a lot of fears that we have actually have their origin in, things that we don't know, that fear of the unknown. And so, whatever you don't know and you don't understand, automatically you develop fear and hate for it. Again, if you have been through, you have been through some things, hardship, like, most of us and most of you guys back home, you know what I mean. I'm sorry, I need to put my computer is running down, so I need to charge it. 1 minute, please. So most of you will have an idea, right? You have an idea of what I mean. That hardship. Um, if that hardship is done with also very little communication, I can tell a little bit of my life, which I can tell a little bit, in the sense that I had a rough childhood. Um, and so there was a moment that I was living with an uncle, and yeah, it wasn't easy, and so there wasn't much of communication. There was more of the harsh hand and cane, and starvation communication. There wasn't much of explanation why ABC. It was more, okay, you do this, whether you do something wrong, you also didn't really know exactly what and when or how you did something wrong and when you're going to get punished. So it was all blur as a child, because anything can happen at any time, and then you are going to get it anyhow. I had that kind, you know, um, of a rough period of childhood. So in that, you develop all kinds of fear. Good evening, Ify. You are welcome. God bless you. How are you doing? In that, you develop all kinds of fear because one, the fear of mm, just fear of existing, because the very fact that you exist is like it's wrong. It's wrong for you to exist. Something is happening to you because you just exist. So the fear of just existing became part of me. The fear of not being loved, because yeah, see what I'm going through. If someone is loved, that person will not be feeling or going through, not even feeling, but going through all these things. So the fear of not being loved, rejected, was also sown in me through that process. So you have now this fear of not willing to exist, and then the fear of rejection that now grew up in me. And so based on what you go through, you develop all kinds of fear, and they have their origin somewhere. Good evening, Bisola, you are welcome. Absolutely, destiny, and they lead to phobia, which is hate. So you understand why I made those categories. They lead to phobia. Phobia is basically hate. Is that you don't even want to come close to it. It's something you don't even want to hear. You don't want to, you want to stay far away from it. And so all these things that we develop, those fears, you have people also that based on I develop fear of rejection, but another person in that same situation or similar circumstance might develop the fear of abandonment, the fear that you are afraid that you'll be abandoned, and so you hold on tight to something, or you reject you reject things. Why? Because you don't want anything to come close to your heart, because one day they will leave you anyway. One day they're just going to dump you somehow. And so we develop all kinds of fears based on the things we go through, how we are brought up, the kind of communication skills that we were taught. And then if we are not able to deal with them or understand their origin, we now pass them also on. And the other time, last 2 weeks, I remember, Bisola, you said you basically had fears for everything. And so if you're not careful, you pass on those fears to your children. But it is very important to now sit and analyze. Okay, where does this fear started from? Now you said the hardship that you went through, from your aunt. The same thing with me. But when you understand the origin of the fears, you now start to you can now start to have a way to, how do I put it? That monster that seemed to be so like monstrous and something you cannot touch, it becomes touchable. You can now peel off the mask, go beyond behind the mask to be able to dismantle the power that it had on you know and then you'll be able now to deal with it effectively in any relationship that you are, even with yourself. Because when you're in the relationship with yourself, there are some parts of you kind of like want to stay away from. And when you have that, please do take time and still go there to find out, why are you so afraid to go to that part of you? Why are you so afraid to confront yourself with that part? Because if you don't do it, one way or the other, you are still going to act that part out. Feelings. Feelings are deep rooted in us, and we act them out knowingly or unknowingly, consciously, subconsciously, we act them out. Good evening, Linda. Good evening, Chica. You are welcome. You are welcome, all of you. God bless you. I'm doing fine. I'm doing very fine. Thank you so much. Thank you. You are welcome. So no matter what, when if you think, oh, that part of me is hidden, that part of me, it's still acting out. You are acting it out. So you need to become aware of it. You need to become conscious of it so that you'll be able to deal with it. If you don't deal with it, it is going to influence you in any relationship, be it with yourself, be it with the maker, be it in boyfriend, whatsoever, your husband, children. It's going to come out one way or the other because that fear is deep rooted. So I spoke about the fear of rejection. I just want to go a little bit deeper in that. The fear of rejection. It can come, through, like from my experience, going through some certain things, and then you are thinking, oh, I'm not wanted. Um, I'm not good enough. I'm not, accepted. And so you have this fear that you want to blend in so that people will accept you. Yeah. You want to blend in so that they will, one way or the other, you will not be too noticeable. So you just want to be blend in and accepted. And so you find yourself that anywhere you are, you kind of like lay low so that they will not notice you too much and just accept you there. You are okay. So you avoid anything that will make them notice you, right? You avoid also anything that will bring quarrels. You avoid them. You quickly lay everything peace. Okay, no problem. Let's just not fight. What is it? We are friends now. Let's move on. Why don't you want to address this situation? Because you don't want to cause any problem that they will now look back and say, hey, who are you and why are you even talking and you are not part of us? You are so fearful of that rejection. So you will do anything to just blend in and keep the peace. It's very important if you have this fear that you start analyzing it to realize where it's stemming from, where it's coming from. Why? Because it makes you lose your voice. It makes you lose also your dignity. When you blend in, blending in is supposed to be a strategy for you to, you know, get what you want at that moment. If it is to be like them, to show them, to teach something, or to get what you want to get. But blending in should not become a way of life. Blending in is a strategy, just a temporal strategy for that moment, and then you move on. You need to now come out and move. You cannot blend in and remain there blended, because if you remain blended, you are also not going to be heard, you are not going to be noticed, and your voice is choked. Your voice is choked. So be very careful when you have this type of fear paralyzing you. Identify it and put it out there. Go there. Dare to go. It's you. It's you. Dare to go in there. Dive in within you and face it and be like, okay, where did it started? Where did it come from? And why do I have it? And how can I turn it around? To at least give yourself a voice back. Another thing with this fear of, the fear of rejection, it's actually both fear of rejection, when you are in a relationship, you have, it has two ways of manifesting. One, it can manifest as, like I said, you blend in, you therefore become actually like a doormat. Yeah. You accept everything and they dump everything and anything on you, all the garbage on you, you just accept it. That's one aspect of how it can, Another way that it can manifest itself is that you become so important. You kind of like want to make yourself so important to everyone that they cannot do without you in a way, or you think without you, I mean, they must want you, right? So you make yourself to everyone and all. Woo! Look at how grandiose I am and so big and so important, so that they will be attracted to you and not reject you. So these are the two ways I have noticed that this fear of rejection manifests itself. Again, I am not a doctor. Before someone come and ask me, how did you notice it? I am not a doctor. I am talking just based on my experience and how I've come to see it. How, I like myself experiencing it and also observing other people with similar um, fears. I have not done extensive research, so don't come and ask me where is my research papers. I don't have it. So, but I strongly believe that experience matters. So we are talking and from experience. We are not talking from the point of view of research, analyzing. I don't know how many people observing. I don't know how many people, and say based on the thousands of people we have observed, this is our conclusion. Sometimes common sense can also speak. So based on what I have noticed, based on how I've experienced this fear of rejection, and I've seen how it's manifesting, also even with observing and dealing with my students, I've noticed these two patterns. The one that will just blend in, the one that will just blend in and accept any and anything, and the one that will make him or herself so grandiose. But at the end, if you talk, if you the deeper you go, the deeper you discuss with them, you realize that actually this is the root cause of it. This person is so afraid to be rejected, but that person is also so afraid to be rejected, and they all have their root in insecurity, fear, insecurity. They are so insecure about themselves, so that because of that insecurity, the other one will play dormant. Because of that insecurity, the other one will play the dominant. All insecurity. Good evening, Patience Momo. You are welcome. God bless you. Okay, Tunde says being exceptional in one's profession can attract people you once feared to you. Absolutely. Then that's become inevitable to their yes, yes, yes. That's a different ball game altogether. When you are exceptionally good in what you do, that's what we talk about value. When you are valuable, when you add value to things, you attract people to you. You attract even those that you were supposed to fear because they need that thing. It's not really you they are interested in, and that's one thing we need to understand. People are not interested in you as the person. They are interested in you as the value that you have. But because we have this insecurity and we want to feel, you put your personality there first, and because of lack of understanding anyways, and we get things mixed up. But thank God that day in day out we are learning, right? And so as we learn, as we grow, and as we learn, we we now redirect our steps. So where before, for me personally, where the fear of rejection had me in a way of blending in, at a point I now started gaining my voice, because somehow I realized, okay, though I blended in, I still maintained the focus of going for, that fear of failure that was pushing, not to fail, not to fail. So I had the fear of rejection, but I also had the fear of failure. So I blending in fine, but I'm not going to stay there for too long if it's not that comfortable, or at a point I need to move. So these two things had in my personal life this influence in me, that I still am, I can be very, very, but when the time comes that I need to move. Good evening, Mary, my dear Sister, good evening. Unstoppable Sunshine, you are welcome. God bless you for joining us this evening. You are welcome. Our mama is in the house. God bless you, dear. You know, so this fear of rejection has really a way of limiting us. It's really like, I think Destiny said it, or someone said it limits us, and yet it's a common thing. Insecurity, Benjamin, as you're saying, it's a common thing, but we need to become aware of it. We need to be you. Some people are so full of themselves, or they appear so full of themselves, but actually it's based on insecurity. Because when you have if you have confidence, there is a way that you walk, there is a way that you act. Everyone, people will see you and, oh yeah, this person is authentic self-confidence. But when you have this borrowed self-confidence, you realize that it becomes so everything is just too much. Every if you're really observant, you see through it. You will see through it. Maybe not the first day, but after a while you will see through it that this thing is just based on insecurity. So in as much as we need to identify by ourselves what are the things, how these things play a role in us and therefore in our relationship with others, it's also very important to know and understand how that plays out with others as well when it comes to relationship. Because if you don't understand, you are always going to be in problem or quarrel or misunderstanding with one person or the other. In my former job, I was a director. Good evening, Perpetual. You are welcome. God bless you. I was a director, finance director, and I had I was responsible for quite a number of personnel. Um, with the general manager, the general director, the two of us were um, yeah, the directors in charge. So there is one thing that I learned even from my other God being so good. I've always been in a leadership position. Um, so I've learned quite a lot about dealing with how people are, and that's why I'm saying based on experience. So I've been in the place of talking, following, evaluating, and coaching, and the kind of people you need to understand the uniqueness of each and every one. You need to understand. That was my take anyway. If I give a task to someone, for me, I need to know that that person can be able to do it based on their ability. And so, for me to know if they can do it, I need to know them a little bit. For me to know what they have in them and be able to push them, I need to also know a little bit, because there are some people, you just say something and they know what to do. They pick it. They know, okay, okay, this and that, and you give them that space. There are some people you need to be the instruction needs to be clear. From A to Z, you need to give the instruction, and based on the instruction, they go and they work. And you need to be following them up. There are some that you need to combine the two. So if you're a leader and you are dealing with everyone the same way, it will not work. It will not work. I learned it, quite. It will not work. Why? Because everyone has their different way of addressing. You have some, if you speak direct to them, they feel that insecurity, they feel bad. I had there are some that you really kind of like have to be careful, because it's like walking on eggshell. Anything you say might trigger something. You'll be like, what did I say wrong now? What did I do wrong? Why, how this? And then you go back and talk with them and try to figure out, okay, why, what did I say? Why do I do it? Because I'm the type that want to understand and be able to, respect also people. Other leaders don't care. They will not, they've just said it and they don't care, and you just have to do it the way it is. And but I believe an effective leader is there to, you are not there to boss. Being boss is not leadership. Being boss is, that's no. You are there to help, you are there to support, you are there to bring the best out of every colleague or anyone you are working with. So I learned that very early on. Like, okay, this person you can't. And one thing is, I was young in that leadership when I started. I was quite young in that leadership position with people twice my age. So it was a huge challenge for me. Coming from the experience of, having this fear of rejection, it was like, how am I going to tackle this? Not only people twice my age, most of them men, and different, different culture. It was tough. It was really tough, because I was fitting into the shoes of someone that had done the job more than 22 years. So, as a young woman, African woman, coming to that position, fitting into the shoe of someone that has done it for, that long, it was tough. So I needed all the help that I could get. And so I read, I learned, I like, okay, how can I, and based on my personality as want to get to know the person behind, not the person before, not the person that I'm seeing, the person behind, so that I can be able to help anyhow to bring the best. Even if they don't see it, I still see the best. And so that's how I was able to gain the trust of people that, under normal circumstances, honestly, they will not even maybe listen to me seriously due to, cultural, they would not have listened to me. But because you address and approach them first as humans, as people, as individual with their own uniqueness, and then now say, okay, now help me help you. How can I help you? But before I can help you, it means that you need to know in which area you need help. So this is your assignment. Like I'm telling people, this is your assignment. Discover which area you think you need help. And if you think there is nowhere, still come and we will talk and we will see where. Because there will definitely be where that they should be helped. No one is perfect, right? So from that angle, we now start building a relationship, a trust relationship. A relationship that I assure I'm going to do my very best to respect them, to give them their space, but I also expect that they will now not abuse that respect, not abuse that trust, but be able to also tell me on time when something is not going to be done or when it's too much. That was when the load is too much. Let us know on time that we can be able to do something about it. Not when the deadline is that, oh, I wasn't able to finish it because what. No excuses for that. Let us know step by step before then, because you have received the trust. Trust is what is give and take, right? So when you receive it, you also need to give it. And when you give it, do something also to maintain it, to keep it growing. So that's somehow how I was able to. It takes time when you are. It takes time, but it pays off at the end. At the beginning, it takes time. It takes time to invest in the human aspect. It takes time to invest in the emotional aspect. But once you get it and once you see it, it pays off. Why? You now adjust your leadership style to the person you are addressing. You adjust, and then it is more effective. It is more, result driven. This I gave the example in the relationship of, work, colleague, leadership, and so forth. But this is also true for you as a mother, you as a wife, you as a husband, you as a brother, whatsoever relationship that you are in. It is very important that you identify those things that have, fear related in your life, one way or the other, that influences you. Now, I spoke about the fear of rejection. In the same line or in the same days, you also have the fear of abandonment. Like the examples I gave before. This fear of abandonment make the people, they are not interested in having deep relationship. Why? Because they are afraid to be abandoned. Everything is very, very, very superficial. It doesn't go deep. It's just on the surface. It's just on the surface. And whenever a relationship, no matter which relationship, is crossing to them a border that goes a bit further, that asks them to invest some emotional value in it, they will back off. They will hijack that relationship, no matter which one, they will hijack it and spoil it. Why? They are so fearful that if they now take the leap, take the risk, and open up, they will be disappointed. They will get hurt based on the experiences that they've been having. These are people, I mean, I have youth that, have terrible childhood experience, parents abandoning them when they were young. They've been in foster care, moving from one place to the other. Because of that movement, moving from one place to the other, they've developed this thing. They cannot bond. Why? Immediately they start bonding, they have to move again. So they have developed this fear for abandonment, that they will do anything not to bond, so that they don't have that fear. So everything, if you like, move help. As when it's getting deeper, they will block you. When you reach a stage that you are communicating with them, you kind of like have a little bit of open door, they will escape. They will block you. I've had that a few with a few of my students, that you're like, oh, okay, I'm able to reach through. I'm almost getting through, and the next day is like wall. The next day is really literally like wall, and you'll be like, okay, what happened? I don't know what's going on, and immediately I know this is fear of abandonment. You are coming too close. When you are coming too close to such people, they will block. They will do everything. They will hijack that relationship. Try to find out if you have this tendency somehow, that you are so, whenever ever it's want to get very serious somewhere, you hijack it somehow, you spoil it somehow. You must do something to escape that next level, and try and understand where it's coming from. Is it from heartbreak, because you open up to, and you gave your heart to someone you so loved, that they have hurt you so badly, now you have sworn never again, and so there is a wall there? Is it due to the lack of parental love, love from people around and stuff like that, and so you're like, they're not getting me again, they're not going to, I'm not going to open up for them to hurt me again, so there is a shield. Anyhow, it's very important to try and have an idea, understand, analyze it. Knowledge is powerful, but understanding it is more powerful. So when you have knowledge of where it's coming from, when you have knowledge of the origin, you now start to develop the